There's a specific type of retiree who never seems anxious about money. You've probably met one. Maybe a parent or a neighbor or someone at a gathering who, when the subject of retirement finances came up, just smiled and shrugged and said something like, "We're fine, we figured it out." They're not necessarily wealthy by any external measure. They don't drive luxury cars. They don't live in the biggest house on the street. But they have something that millions of retirees who saved more money do not have, which is genuine financial calm, not numbness or avoidance, actual peace with where they stand. That peace isn't an accident, and it isn't purely a function of how much they saved. It's built through habits, specific, repeatable practices that keep them informed without being obsessive, protected without being paralyzed, and spending without anxiety. I've studied these patterns for a long time, and what I want to give you today is the distilled version. 7 habits that separate the retirees who never worry about money from the ones who never stop. Habit 1. They know their exact monthly cash flow, and they check it on one specific day every month. Not every day, not when anxiety strikes. One day. This sounds almost too simple to be powerful, and it is. What it does is contain the anxiety to a single moment rather than allowing it to bleed into every day of the month. The retirees who are perpetually anxious about money often check their balances constantly and obsessively, and the act of constant checking generates anxiety regardless of the balance. The retirees who are calm have made an appointment with their finances. Once a month, they sit down, they check all accounts, they compare against the prior month. They look at spending versus plan. Then they close the laptop. They know what they know. Until next month, they don't need to know more. The structure of this habit matters as much as the content. Pick a day, the first of the month, the 15th, and make it a ritual. Same time, same approach, same spreadsheet or app. When the day comes, you know where you stand. When it doesn't come, you don't think about it. This sounds like denial. It isn't. It's discipline. The difference is that when you check on schedule, you're acting from information. When you check from anxiety, you're acting from fear. Same data, very different outcome. Habit 2. They keep a permanent cash buffer that they treat as untouchable except in genuine emergencies. Not "my car needs new tires," untouchable. Real emergencies. Sudden medical need, major home repair, something that would otherwise require selling investments at a bad time. This buffer typically represents 1 to 2 years of living expenses, kept in a high-yield savings account or short-duration treasury bills, not invested in equities, not chasing returns. Why does this calm anxiety more than almost anything else? Because the number one financial fear of most retirees isn't actually running out of money over 30 years. It's the fear of a short-term crisis that requires them to sell investments at the worst moment. The cash buffer eliminates that scenario. When the market drops 40%, as it did in 2008 to 2009 and briefly in 2020, the retiree with a 2-year cash buffer doesn't panic sell. They live off the buffer while they wait for the recovery. This habit costs some return in normal years. Cash doesn't grow as fast as equities. But the psychological return on knowing you can absorb a crisis without firing off your long-term investments is worth more to most retirees than the extra percentage point of growth they gave up. Habit 3. They've automated their income, so money arrives without their involvement. In retirement, setting up a reliable, automatic cash flow, Social Security directly deposited, portfolio dividends or withdrawals transferred on a schedule, any pension or annuity arriving on the same day each month, creates a sensation of reliability that reduces anxiety dramatically. It sounds like a logistical detail. Psychologically, it's enormous. When money arrives on schedule, automatically, it reinforces a sense of control and predictability that's central to financial calm. When money requires manual action, deciding when to sell, how much to withdraw, where to move funds, each act of deciding is a small spike of anxiety. Automate the decisions. Make income arrive like a paycheck arrived when you were working. Your brain understands paychecks. It doesn't understand portfolio volatility. Habit 4. They have a spending plan based on categories, not a rigid monthly budget. The word budget triggers resistance in a lot of retirees. It sounds like deprivation. It sounds like counting pennies in the phase of life where you're supposed to be free. The retirees who never worry about money have reframed this. They have a spending plan, a set of categories with rough annual targets, and they check their actual spending against those categories once a month. See Habit 1. They're not restricting every purchase. They're maintaining awareness of which categories are on track and which are running hot. When dining out runs 40% over the annual target in October, they naturally moderate in November. Not because a rule told them to, because they know where they stand. The power of categories rather than a monthly number is that it absorbs variation gracefully. A month with a big car repair or a family trip doesn't look like a crisis. It just shows up as a category running temporarily high, and you know you'll naturally compensate. The retirees who run a rigid monthly budget feel every deviation as a failure. The ones using a category plan feel it as information. Habit 5. They made a deliberate decision about Social Security timing and are at peace with it. This sounds oddly specific, but the number of retirees who carry permanent low-grade anxiety about their Social Security claiming decision is striking. They claimed at 62 and wonder if they made a mistake, or they waited until 70 and wonder if they would have been better off with the early payments they didn't take. The retirees who never worry about money have made this decision consciously, typically after running the break-even math, and they've committed to it. They're not second-guessing. They know why they chose what they chose. The lesson: if you haven't yet claimed, do the calculation deliberately. Run your break-even analysis, how old you'd need to be for the delayed benefit to overtake the accumulated early benefits. Factor in your health, your spouse's benefit, your need for income. Make the call. Then move on. The anxiety that comes from an unresolved decision is worse than any claiming outcome. Certainty, even if you theoretically chose less optimally, is better than perpetual second-guessing. Habit 6. They have an annual spending review with a financial advisor or a trusted partner. Not to seek permission, but to get a reality check. The retirees who never worry have usually built in one structured external check on their finances each year. It might be an annual meeting with a fee-only financial planner who reviews their withdrawal rate, tax situation, and portfolio allocation. It might be a disciplined conversation with a spouse or sibling where they lay out the numbers clearly. What it isn't is constant reassurance seeking. It's one deliberate reality check per year that either confirms they're on track or identifies something specific that needs adjusting. The purpose is clarity, not comfort, and clarity, once achieved, enables the calm that carries through the rest of the year. Habit 7. They've mentally separated their essential spending from their optional spending, and they know which one is truly safe. This is the most psychologically sophisticated habit on the list, and the one that distinguishes people who have thought carefully about retirement from those who just accumulated and hoped. The essential spending, housing, food, utilities, healthcare, insurance, is funded by guaranteed sources: Social Security, pension, annuity. This spending cannot be disrupted by market volatility. The optional spending, travel, dining, entertainment, gifts, comes from the investment portfolio. This spending can flex. Once a retiree has made this separation clearly and built their income sources to support it, something changes in how they experience market volatility. A 20% portfolio drop no longer feels like a threat to their survival, because it isn't. Their survival is funded elsewhere. The portfolio downturn affects when they next travel or how they celebrate Christmas, significant but not existential. This mental architecture, more than any single financial decision, is what produces the genuine, unperformable calm that the never-worrying retiree carries. It's not that they're oblivious to risk. It's that they've structured their life so that the most important things are protected from the risks they cannot control. 7 habits. None of them require a magic savings number. None of them require perfect market timing. They require deliberateness, the willingness to build a structure and then live inside it with genuine trust. The retirees who never worry about money didn't find calm by accident. They built it, habit by habit, until it became the default state of their financial life. There's a useful distinction here between habits that are about information and habits that are about insurance. Habits 1, 4, and 5, the monthly cash flow check, the spending plan, and the deliberate Social Security decision, are about information. They reduce anxiety by replacing uncertainty with knowledge. When you know what you have, what you're spending, and what's guaranteed, uncertainty is replaced by clarity. Clarity is the opposite of financial anxiety. You can't be calm about what you don't understand, and you can't be anxious about what you clearly see. Habits 2, 3, and 6, the cash buffer, automated income, and the annual advisor check-in, are about insurance against the scenarios that cause the deepest financial fear. The fear that a market crash will derail the retirement. The fear that an unexpected expense will rupture the budget. the fear that something is quietly wrong that you can't see. The buffer addresses the first fear directly. Automated income addresses the second by ensuring that your standard of living doesn't require manual intervention to continue. The annual check-in addresses the third by providing an external set of eyes that can catch what's invisible from inside your own financial picture. And habit 7, the mental separation of essential from optional spending, is a structural reframe that transforms how you experience every other element of retirement finance. When the essential floor is guaranteed and the portfolio only funds what's optional, nothing in the investment portfolio can threaten your basic life. This reframe sounds simple. Living inside it consistently requires practice, but retirees who've genuinely internalized it describe their relationship to market news as something close to indifference. The market being down doesn't affect whether they can pay the rent or buy groceries, so they watch the numbers and then put the phone down and go have dinner. That's what financial peace in retirement actually looks like. Not the absence of volatility, but the absence of existential anxiety about it. One practical note on building these habits: don't try to implement all 7 at once. Pick the one that would make the biggest immediate difference in your financial anxiety and start there. For most people, that's habit 1, the monthly financial check-in, because the discipline of scheduled awareness immediately reduces the constant ambient monitoring that keeps anxiety elevated. Once that's in place, add the cash buffer. Then automate income. The habits reinforce each other once they're in place, but they need to be added one at a time to actually stick. Which of these 7 do you already practice? Which feels hardest? Drop it in the comments. And if you want more of this kind of retirement thinking, subscribe. This is exactly what we do here. I want to close with something that doesn't fit neatly into any of the 7 habits but underlies all of them: the importance of having a financial philosophy that you've explicitly articulated and own. Most people have an implicit financial philosophy, accumulated from their parents' behavior with money, from their life experiences, from the accumulated messages of financial media. But implicit philosophies are fragile under stress. When the market drops and the headlines are alarming and your account balance looks alarming, an implicit philosophy doesn't hold. An explicit one can. The retirees who never worry about money have generally, somewhere along the way, made peace with a specific set of beliefs about money: what it's for, how much is enough, what risks are acceptable, what they're protecting and why. These beliefs were tested, probably through a market downturn or a personal financial scare, and came out the other side stronger. They're not borrowed from a book or a YouTube channel. They're personally owned. Building that explicit philosophy, writing it down, discussing it with your partner, revisiting it after major life events, is the meta habit that makes all 7 habits sustainable over the long arc of retirement. The habits give you structure. The philosophy gives you the reasons for the structure that keep you inside it when everything is uncomfortable. A final observation on what these 7 habits look like compounded over a full retirement. The retirees who build and maintain all 7 are consistently described by the people around them as the ones who figured it out. Not necessarily the wealthiest ones, the most deliberately organized ones. There's a version of retirement that looks effortless from the outside: the couple who never seems worried about money, who makes decisions calmly and confidently, who isn't buffeted by every market headline. From the inside, that effortlessness is built on exactly these 7 habits, running quietly in the background. The monthly check-in keeps them informed. The cash buffer keeps them protected. Automated income keeps their standard of living stable. The category plan keeps their spending honest. The deliberate Social Security decision gives them clarity. The annual advisor check gives them calibration. And the mental separation of essential from optional spending gives them the psychological architecture that makes all the others sustainable. The habits interact and reinforce each other. Once all 7 are in place, the financial peace that results isn't accidental, it's structural.